Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation History number 60. And tonight, I'm delighted to say I'm being joined by AI Shia Tori, and we're going to be talking about Sir Francis Drake's circumnavigation of the world in between 1577 and 1580. But before we do that, to give people time to join the stream, I'm going to start us off with a tune.
Take up the white man's burden, send forth the best ye breed. Go bind your sons to exile, to serve your captives' need, to wait in heavy harness on flooded folk and wild. Your new gods sullen peoples have devil and have child. Take up the white man's burden, in patience to abide, to veil the threat of terror and check the show of pride. By open speech and simple, 100 times made vain, to seek another's profit and work another's gain. Take up the white man's burden, the savage wars of peace, fill full the mouth of famine and bid the sickness cease. And when your goal is nearest, the end for others sought, what's love that heed and folly, bring all your hopes to naught. Take up the white man's burden, no tawdry rule of kings, but toil of serf and sweeper, the tale of common things. The ports ye shall not enter, the roads ye shall not tread. Go make them with your living and mark them with your dead. Take up the white man's burden and reap his old reward. The blame of those ye better, the hate of those ye guard, the cry of those ye humor, are slowly towards the light. Why brought ye us from bondage, our loved Egyptian night? Take up the white man's burden, ye dare not stoop to less, nor call too loud on freedom to cloak your weariness. By all ye cry or whisper, by all ye leave or do, the silent, sullen people shall weigh your gods and you. Take up the white man's burden, have done with childish days, the lightly proffered laurel, the easy ungrudged praise. Come down to search your manhood through all of thankless years. No age with give or wisdom, the judgment of your peers. Take off the white man's burden through all of thankless years.
And that was, of course, the excellent Chris Gard. If you like good music, go and check out Chris Gard. He's a genuine Anglo-Celtic Australian musician, and he's got a really good YouTube channel. And you can also follow him on X on Twitter, where we are also live as we speak. I have to apologize, first of all. We should have done this stream a week ago, but I forgot about it. It just simply went out of my head amongst all the stuff I was doing in my daily life, and so we're doing it this week instead. And my thanks to AI Shiatori for agreeing to come back and do it this week, because of course Drake is a chap from AI's part of the world, is he not? AI.
He is. He was born in Tavistock in Devon, not about, well, a few miles from Plymouth, of course, which is probably one of the, the most important naval, at this time period anyway, naval port city in Britain. I mean, the southwest is sort of awash with
It's nice
um,
that there's a nice statue of him on the park
yeah.
overlooking Plymouth, isn't there?
There's a statue. There's several plaques in Tavistock itself. I think there's a statue as well in Tavistock. Um, and yeah, he is. Anywhere you go in Devon, he is like uh, a key figure. Like in North Devon, you also have like the Grenvilles, which I think we've talked about on this stream or on my channel before, who are also in the Civil War thing. You have like these very like well-known local figures, but unlike
Lots of seamen and people like that for sure.
yeah, and what's quite interesting is I view in when it comes to like the English British um naval origins, if you were to capture it into three people, I would say we've covered Lord Nelson, we've covered Captain Cook, and Sir Francis Drake. I think those three probably, and I would say deservedly as well, in popular culture at least. If you were to ask anybody on the street, um, anywhere, um, or like a general knowledge question, those three individuals are probably the most well-known naval figures from British history. Um,
Yeah, I think you'd probably be right. I mean, you've got people, of course, like Captain Scott, the famous Antarctic explorer. He
True,
was a
yeah.
Royal Navy chap. I mean, there are many in
I mean, there are a lot. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
you know, I'm a Royal Navy nerd, AI.
yeah,
So, but yeah, I mean, there's an awful lot of wonderful Royal Navy figures in history. But yeah, I couldn't disagree with you. I suppose Nelson, Drake, and Captain Cook would certainly be right at the top for sure.
yeah. They're right, and it's because of the
And
legacy.
they're emblematic of how important the sea and ocean exploration and trade and the Royal Navy was to British history.
And yeah, and dominance, dominance, and we've I mean, in many ways, we've sort of done this backwards. We started off, I think, with Lord Nelson, then we went to Captain Cook, and now we've we're sort of instead of like maybe we should have done this with Captain Cook, Sir Francis Drake, and then
Well,
done it in order.
AI, you could make a good argument that Alfred the Great, who of course is widely regarded rightly as the founder of England, um, you can make a pretty good argument that Alfred the Great actually founded the Royal Navy because
Yeah, yeah,
he had royal ships built to counter the Norse Viking raiders. So
yeah,
you
and it was
the
out
Royal
of
Navy story in some ways goes right back to Alfred the Great.
yeah, and it's also in the West Country, like in Devon. There was in Devon and in Somerset in the the Bristol Channel. Of course, there was a great, there were several Viking, separate from Guthrum, but there were several attacks, and that he was able to repel. I think with Sir Francis Drake, and this is something I can hear, there may be people that will say, well, Magellan was the first to circumnavigate the world. Well, he didn't, because he died. He was killed in the Philippines, halfway through, and his ship, what was left of it, had a handful of survivors who were delirious, dehydrated, and barely alive when they returned home. It's widely even considered by contemporaries at the time, from their own people, as a disaster, that Magellan's journey was a disaster, even though, okay, a handful of crew managed to circumnavigate the globe. I think, though, and it's fair to say, this was, I mean, I would class this as the first, successful circumnavigation of the globe, in the sense of, yes, it was only Drake's ship which was renamed during this voyage as the Golden Hind, from the Pelican to the Golden Hind. So we'll talk about that in a bit, about sometimes a bit of confusion on the naming, but he was able to go further. He was able to explore the west coast of America. He was able to discover that there was greater sea and a passage further south than Tierra del Fuego in what's now southern Chile, Argentina.
I've put a map up, a contemporary map actually. Drake did this voyage between 1577 and 1580, and this map probably dates to about 1590, so only about 10 years after Drake and his crew got home. And it sort of shows his route, which is down through the Atlantic, around the coast, around the Cape of Good Hope in Africa, and then off towards Asia, and then he comes back the other way via the west coast of North America and the west coast of South America.
Yes, and it's it's probably one of the most detailed journeys. He was able to go. I think he went all the way up to modern day Alaska. I know he landed on Vancouver Island. I did a bit of
Yeah,
research.
he went. I know he went the furthest north any European had yet been on the American west coast. So
and south.
he went and south. Yeah, well, obviously because he went
Yeah.
all the way down south, but he went further north than anyone had done. And I think I'm correct in saying he actually claimed what is now California as New Albion for England. So there we go.
You see on the map, Nova Albia, so New England, the original the OG New England, and the reason they called it that is in the bay of it's still called today Drake's Bay, which is, I think it's like 50 miles north of San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
You come across the bay, and it has white cliffs, and particularly because a lot of the crew, including Sir Francis Drake, because even though he was born in Tavistock, he grew up in Medway in Kent, and there was a fair number of sailors from there. It obviously reminded them of the White Cliffs of Dover, and
Cool.
they set up a small settlement, a foundry, and also the repairs to the ship before they went further north. So this was they actually did actually stop and stay in this bay area, and you can visit it today. There's actually I was a few years ago, I found out during the whole 2020 BLM madness that they removed a statue of Sir Francis Drake. Now, it was claimed by the local politicians there that this was actually planned before all this, and it was just because the statue was not stable and there was like a safety risk or something, but it was never put back up.
Why couldn't they have stabilized it? Would be my question to that. I mean, easy enough to repair a statue. It's not going anywhere, is it?
It's not going anywhere. But I am told there is a stoned carve-out cross at the site, which is uh, dedicated to Sir Francis Drake, but also I think a few of the sailors that died around this time. So because they would have, I think they were buried actually um, in the inland bay area there. So for me and for English people, and also going forward, the legacy that California did hold quite a special place for a lot of English people, because it was. I mean, it is kind of like a lost colony. It is a lost colony, the North California, that is, I should say, or what is North California? But it's yeah, it's a cool story, and I mean, yeah, here's the replica of the Golden Hind. Of course, it was called the Pelican when they set sail from on their voyage. And Duke, should we start with a bit of a backstory before while you got
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, first of all, of course, he got some backing from Queen Elizabeth I. As you just mentioned, AI, he changed the name of his flagship from the Pelican to the Golden Hind, and I think that was also due to one of his sponsors, was it not? Wasn't that his
yes,
badge?
it was oh it the oh, I'm just sorry, I bring up his name. He was Sir Christopher Hatton,
Hmm.
whose family crest, because he was a nobleman and patron of the voyage. His family crest was the Golden Hind, which is a female red deer. Um,
Yes,
just
it's the female equivalent of a stag, basically.
Yeah, that's what
Um,
a hind. Yeah,
yeah,
for people unaware. So that was, and you can at the rear of the ship that there is a you got the crest, the actual crest of Sir Christopher Hatton, there, but uh yeah, that it was changed from the Pelican to that, and you can visit it. I think you can visit it in where is it? It's is it Southwark? I know it's on the south bank of the
yeah, it
Thames.
is. It's
Yeah.
on the South Bank. I'm not sure where it is now because they move it around. Like when I was last in England, it was on the Tower side, but they've moved it now to the South side. I think
I
there's
think it.
also, isn't
I
there a
think it's.
replica in Brixham as well? AI?
I'm not
I'm
sure.
pretty sure there's a replica in Brixham as well. I don't think it's as good as this one.
No, this
I
one. This one is the seaworthy. Yeah, there is. The one in Brixham is not seaworthy. It can't go
Yes,
out.
that's
This
what I
one is
thought.
this one is the obviously the seaworthy one, and this is the one that I've been to actually, and I think it's Embankment. When I went there several years ago, it was
It's on
Embankment.
the south side of the river, so
Yeah,
yeah, you're probably right, AI.
yeah. It was an Embankment, and I've been on this one, um,
Yeah,
and
I've been on this one, and this is a good replica. It's quite accurate
yeah, it
and
is a good one.
surprisingly small for a ship that sailed around the world.
I'm going to be honest, because I'm 6'6". When
Yeah,
I
you
went
would
on
have
there,
found it terrible. Yeah,
yeah, that's good. I would not. I would be like, I would have said like, I would have said to Drake, I said, listen, just drop me off in Morocco. I'll make my way home. I wouldn't be able to cope
but
with that with
they're
that.
all really low AI. I mean, like I've been on Captain Cook's Endeavour replica, which is also very accurate. And I'm only 6'2", but I can't stand upright below decks in it at all, except in the captain's cabin, just about. And even
Yeah,
then, you've got to look out for the cross beams.
I mean to be fair though, they probably obviously people back then were shorter.
They were a little
Um,
bit shorter, but you also learned to duck your head, mate. You did.
yeah,
You
I mean
learned to duck your head.
yeah, there is yeah, that's right. It's Oh, by the way, if you want to visit it now, it's actually at Bankside in Southwark. So there you go.
There you go.
People,
I used to live in Suffolk. I was born in Suffolk. Um, I'm a Bermondsey boy, so yes. And
I got my.
that replica has actually sailed across the Atlantic twice, I believe.
It has, yep, correct.
Yeah.
It has, yep, it sailed, and uh, I think it passed through the Panama Canal as well.
Yeah, she's very pretty. So she's a very pretty ship. And she is a accurate replica. As I say, there's another one at Brixham, which I think is in Devon, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yes, there is one in Devon, Brixham,
Yeah,
Devon.
but
Yeah,
it's not as accurate as this one, sadly. But I
yeah.
mean, also probably worth a visit if you're down in that part of the world. So
I mean, it's still. The trouble is, it's not seaworthy. It's sort of like held, together, just in place as it's more of a. I mean, it is a museum. It's a museum, and it's a reconstruction of like what life would have been like. So with this one, you just go on, and it has like the bunk, it has the cabin, the crew, or the storage bit. If you go to the one in Brixton, there is like a bit more like it's all like a more of a history tour thing. So if you want to see
mhm.
like how if you want to learn or want to show people, oh, this is what the crew had to do on daily basis, something that you go. The Brixton one's quite a good one to go to. It's sort of a.
Just to answer Richard Hughes in the chat, the Golden Hind is about 150 tons in terms of weight. Her displacement is 300 tons. She's just over 100 feet long and about 20 feet wide. And her draft below the water is about 10 feet, something like that. And she was originally armed with 22 guns and would have had a crew of about 85 officers and men, something like that. So there you go.
Yeah. It was. Uh, as I say, it's not very big, but when you're we talked about this before, with Cook, when you're a child or when you're young and you go there, you think it's gonna because it's such a grand story of adventure. You think it's
Mm.
gonna be like bigger. You think aircraft carrier, right? And it's like it's not that, but
To put it another way, Cook's Endeavour is almost twice the size of the Golden Hind, and Victory is probably 3 or 4 times the size. I think that would be another
yeah,
way to describe it to people, because a lot of people will have been on one of those three ships at least. So, but yeah, she's not very big, but she was the biggest of the 5 ships that Drake took on his circumnavigation. He had 5 ships altogether, but she was the biggest, I do believe.
yeah, she was. She was bigger than the Marigold and the oh, I forgot the name of the other ones, but I got notes here, so I could. But yeah, it was the bigger ship, and probably explains why it was able to last because, as we talked about, the South Antarctic, below the Straits of Magellan and Drake's Passage, the waves down there, it really did hammer those. I mean, it forced most of the ship, the other ships, smaller ones, to return home. It was rough. It was really
AI,
rough.
were you on the stream we did on Anson's voyage? I think you were, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Same
may
problem. Yeah,
recall that the same sort of thing happened to Anson, and again his other ships were mostly smaller than Centurion, than HMS Centurion, which was his flagship, and so it's no surprise. 200 and odd years earlier, Drake had the same problem. So
yeah. It was a big problem. Um, so just a sort of background here. Um, the sponsor officially of this voyage was Queen Elizabeth herself. It was the
hmm
Crown. It was the state. and it was done in secret. So the sailors who were commissioned for this voyage had no knowledge of this was going to be a journey to effectively circumnavigate the globe, but also to go to South America, the Spanish, to into the heart of the Spanish Empire.
Would have been the equivalent of going to the moon back then, by the way, guys.
It
Pretty
would have
much.
it would have been, but it also would have been going to moon and fighting the largest empire in the history of the
Oh
universe.
yeah, absolutely.
I
Yes,
mean,
100%,
in many ways,
100%.
it would have been like going to the Death Star. It would
Mm.
have been like Buzz Aldrin saying, "Oh, by the way, we're going to the Death Star and we're going to take all their shit." And it's
Do you know how old Drake was when he did this voyage? Because I know he lived about 16 years after he got back in 1580.
oh God, what I'm just trying to think. When was he was? Well, he was born 1540.
Ah, okay,
So
fair enough. So he would have been in his late 30s when he set off.
yeah, late 30s, early 40s. Yeah. He died at yeah.
Cool,
Uh,
cool,
well,
cool.
he died at coast of Portobello off Panama. That was during one of the raids around there.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was buried at sea. And there's again part of his myth and legend. Many people have tried to find his coffin. Apparently, it was a lead coffin, and there's been a lot. There's a crazy amount of popular culture, novels, fiction, historical documentaries trying to find it, and it's yeah. I don't think it'll ever be found, if I'm absolutely honest. I think it's one of those like lost to time.
They should probably
Um,
leave him in peace anyway, to be honest, AI.
yeah, yeah, should do, should do. But so going back to the thing here, yeah, this was secret. The crew were told that they were going to go on a expedition to Alexandria to meet up with Arab, Berber, and possibly Ottoman um, merchants and political figures. And this wasn't unusual because at the time, Duke, of course, this is during the period of the Protestant Reformation and the start of the various uh, wars of religion in Europe between Catholic nations and the emerging Protestant nations as well. And on top of this, the Pope had divided up the New World, well, effectively the world and the New World, between Spain and Portugal, which we've talked about before. Um, and the Spain and Portugal were effectively the first European powers to explode in the Americas and in the East and the Far East, but particularly in the Americas. And round about Drake's time, this voyage, the Spanish have just emerged from what's now Mexico, the viceroyalty of New Spain, and they have gone southwards into what's now Colombia, Venezuela, and into the Incas, or what would be like Bolivia and Chile, and they have conquered, down that way, and the Portuguese have formed up plantation colonies and
In
a
Brazil.
lot in
In
Brazil,
Brazil.
along
Yeah.
the coastline of Brazil. Yeah, and so you've got these particularly. I mean, the Portuguese were at this point they were relatively friendly to Drake. He was able to stop in their areas and trade with natives, and so the Portuguese were relatively friendly to Britain. To I
The
mean to a
the
point, but
picture on the screen, by the way, guys, is Sir Francis Drake. So
yeah, that's him. But of course, the Spanish were incredibly hostile. There were, and people will be aware of this when they've looked into the reign of Elizabeth, there were multiple attempts by Philip, who was married to, I believe it was Mary,
Hmm.
There were multiple attempts to usurp Queen Elizabeth, and during this point, this was her father Henry VIII, of
They
course,
used
found.
to they used to send assassins to England, who were sometimes Catholic priests who were dedicated to killing the English Queen, basically.
Yeah, Jesuits. I mean that it
Yeah,
would, and they would belong to the Jesuit order. Yeah, and it's also worth noting that during this period, um, the Reformation in England, like other places, had just happened. Relatively speaking, had happened within people's lifetime. Most of England at this point was probably still Roman Catholic. The most people, and particularly the higher up in nobility and sort of the educated
yeah. Lots of
classes.
them were AI. Lots of them
Yeah,
were, and even the Anglicans.
yeah, yeah,
England was never really the home of like extreme Anglicans. They were pretty Anglo-Catholic for the most part in these days.
yeah.
Although it has to be remembered that um, Elizabeth's half sister had burned quite a lot of English Protestants, which didn't make her very popular. Um, And Elizabeth adopted the very sensible policy. She said, I don't want to look into men's hearts to see what they really believe, so long as they, outwardly toe the line. That's all I care about, which I think is a very sensible policy, if I may say so. But,
Yeah, I mean, but because of this nature, you did actually have like I don't want to sound like a Marxist when I say this, but you did have like an element of class struggle in a sense between the emerging sort of layman um, class, this emerging professional class, and the um, nobility when it came to religion. And Sir Francis Drake Father was part of this. He was a layman priest, but also a very much considered a radical Protestant. He believed in that effectively the church, the Roman Catholic Church, was um
the devil.
the devil. Yeah, like it was
Yeah.
the seat of the Antichrist. Um,
One thing I think is worth pointing out, AI, is that like Captain Cook, Sir Francis Drake was in no way from the ruling classes in Britain. He came from
no,
much lower down in the social orders. Like Nelson was a middle class guy basically,
he was. Yeah,
he did have some higher naval officers in his family, but his father was a vicar. I mean, which is it's middle class basically. But Drake, like Captain Cook, actually came from the lower orders, I guess we could say.
yeah. He did, and while growing up, they lived they moved from Tavistock to Medway in Kent, and this was a place among sailors, shipbuilders, and his father would preach um, to the sailors, shipbuilders, and people there, and obviously this would be the place where, particularly Sir Francis, would probably pick up his love and fascination with the sea, with sailing, um, and also there. And it's quite hard because when I explain this to people, in our spaces you have like a lot of feeling on this. As you mentioned, there was assassins, but at home you had the Duke of Norfolk, who was a Roman Catholic. You had for many people
Duke
there.
of Norfolk, who was a Roman Catholic and also a total traitor if you're an Englishman. But
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, total traitor. There was this sense that you had the enemy, the Catholic world on the outside, who was the enemy trying to invade England and slaughter um, its population, its Protestants and its population, and conquer, but you also had the sense of, the enemy within, the Catholic sympathizers from within, and so you had like this heightened sense of, this sort of I wouldn't say paranoia, because I would say it was justified, because there were attempts, there were there were attempts to do this.
Well, only 8 years after Sir Francis Drake returns from his circumnavigation, you have the Spanish Armada. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that was planned well in, and the purpose for this expedition, and there's a lot of historical debate among modern historians of why this happened. I've seen like this
It was
recently.
officially an exploration expedition.
Yeah,
AI.
if it
But
officially
there,
it was.
there was,
Yeah,
but there was certainly an unsaid bit, but that we're going to raid the Spanish a bit.
yeah.
There was certainly that under it.
From spies in Spain, because of course you had I think it was Walsingham, the Queen's spy. It was known that because the western coast of the Americas, or Spanish controlled Americas, was largely fortified, so like your Cuba, your Veracruz coastlines there, because of course you had
You
shipping.
mean the eastern coast AI?
Sorry, the eastern coast of Spanish Americas, yeah, was quite fortified. But the west coast of, like, Chile, um, western coast of Mexico, all the way up to what's now Southern California. These areas were, and Colombia, and Ecuador were.
Drake and his men were the first Englishmen ever to go into the Pacific.
That's right. And these areas, these big towns and cities were, where you had silver ingots and gold ingots you know, by tons daily being passed through. These towns had no fortifications, because the Spanish believed, and right up until that point, that there was no threat. There was the English wouldn't be able to get there within time. They wouldn't be able to pass through, because at that point the Magellan Straits were largely kept secret. To get from the Atlantic to the Pacific was a Portuguese and a Spanish secret, particularly a Spanish secret. There was no knowledge, and so this journey by Sir Francis Drake was partly his partly following, figuring out Magellan's Passage, but also creating his own, and his own, Drake's Pass, which
There is a Drake's Passage to this day.
Drake's
So
Passage,
yeah,
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 still
yeah.
called that. Yep, still called that to this day, and uh, just before anyone asks, did he would have passed the Falkland Islands? Did he spot it? No, he didn't. Unfortunately, if he did, that would have solved a lot of annoying problems down the road. But there's no record of him actually spotting the Falkland Islands.
But
He did.
there again, nor did any Spanish guys either. So whatever.
Well, no, they didn't. There were islands south of Tierra del Fuego, near around Drake's Passage, which I guess technically belong to. I think they belong to Chile today, though Argentina
Yeah,
claim it.
they'd be Chilean today
Well,
for sure.
Argentina claim it, because you know what,
Well,
those
Argentina
bastards.
claims everything,
I
but
know. I mean, fucking crybabies. Anyway, the point is that they claim it, but the funny thing is, Drake did actually land on those, set foot in it, and declared it Elizabeth Islands. He called it the Elizabeth Islands. So we there you go. Anyway, going back to the chronological order of this, the circumnavigation, it began with setting sail from Plymouth in December. And as you mentioned, it was Sir Francis Drake was captain of the Pelican, which would be renamed Golden Hind, but we'll call it Pelican from now on. You had the ship Elizabeth, which was captained by John Winter. You had the Marigold, which was captained by John Thomas. And then you had these two supply ships, the Benedict and the Swan. So the Benedict was captained by Thomas Moon, and the Swan was captained by John Chester. And uh, as Duke mentioned earlier, the only one to complete the voyage, of course, would be the Pelican / Golden Hind under Sir Francis Drake.
AI, did you ever see many, many years ago now? John Ford played Sir Francis Drake in a pretty good TV series about this voyage, I think.
I was talking to my dad actually the other day about that, and he was telling me, and I've seen stills of it. I've like in passing. I never watched it, which is a shame. I really should watch it actually because it.
Yeah, no, I watched it. I watched it with my dad years and years ago, and it wasn't bad. John Ford did a pretty good Sir Francis Drake, actually.
Yeah, I'm probably a bit before my time. Probably I never watched it, but that would be a good one.
Yeah,
to watch.
it would have been the 80s, I would imagine.
Or
AI.
is it? I was oh God, let's say that
You wouldn't
about
have even been a gleam in your father's eye in those days.
about 5 years before I was born.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's yeah, true. I wouldn't have been. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So they set sail, and unfortunately they did run into immediate problems where there was a gale force that forced the fleet to seek safe harbor in Falmouth, so in Cornwall. So they didn't really get very far
That's
originally.
what you get for sailing in December. But yeah.
Yeah. Again, unfortunately, no, because this is the thing. It's like, why would they set? It was funny because you had the sort of harbour
They're
master in
looking at
Falmouth.
where they're going to be in 6 months' time. That's why they sail in December, of
Yeah,
course.
there's a funny story that the harbour master in Falmouth was quite bewildered with why the fleet was why they were setting sail at this time, and I think Drake and the other captains made up the excuse of, oh well, it's to beat the it's to enjoy the sort of warm weather in Egypt or something, North Africa or something like that. They made up some sort of like BS excuse or something. Of course, as you
I've got to
mentioned,
say, AI, that I love Plymouth and I also love Falmouth. Like even today, both of those towns, they're completely, their atmosphere is completely the ocean and going around the world and all this stuff. I mean, like Falmouth used to be where the packet ships used to go. The ships that carried post office letters all around the
yes,
empire, they used to turn into Falmouth. And Falmouth
yes,
is still the place where a lot of the Royal Fleet Auxiliary is based, the supply ships for the Royal Navy and all that. Plymouth
yeah,
and Falmouth are wonderful towns. I love them. I think they're great.
yeah. You to get to Yarless of Scilly, you go from Falmouth as well. Even to this day.
That's
Um,
somewhere I've never been, AI, but I'd love to go actually, because it's the one place in England you can grow stuff that doesn't get frost because there's no frost in the Isles of Scilly.
no.
So,
I will
which
be
it,
honest, because I've been on boats outside. I've lived in that. I've lived in Cornwall. I've been in boats and everything. But when I was younger, I did suffer from seasickness quite badly. I
mate,
did.
you got to stay on the upper deck and in the middle of the boat. That's the place it moves least, and you'll get over it if you do that.
I was told if you stick it long enough, it will pass. It
Yeah,
will
I mean,
pass.
Nelson got seasick when he first went to sea, every time he went to sea, but only for a couple of weeks, and then it would go
Yeah.
because he'd get
Yeah.
used to it. But if you do get seasick, I can tell you now, like it doesn't matter if you're on a ship or a yacht or whatever it might be, you want to be on the upper deck. Don't go below because that's going to make you throw up. Be on the upper deck and try and get as in the middle of the vessel as you can, between fore and aft and port and starboard. Try and get right in the middle of the boat. Lie down flat. You'll get used to it. It's all right. I'm lucky I don't get seasick, but my poor brother once got seasick on a Thames ferry, waiting to go down to Greenwich from Westminster, and he did. I'm not lying. He got seasick on it, but so I have some sympathy for that. But it's horrible. I've seen
I was
people who wanted to die because of it, but
I was
it's not a British trait. We don't tend to get seasick for long anyway.
no, I'm just a filthy landlubber, or I'm too much of a landlubber, I guess.
You'd get used to it if you did it like gradually. Anyway.
Yeah.
And also, I tell you, the other thing you get is that if you change from one vessel to another, and they're different sizes and shapes and things, the movement changes. And so you can be perfectly fine on one, but you go on another one and you will get a bit queasy for a little while anyway.
And the other thing is, if you're ever on a ship, yacht or something, very important, and it's gonna you never lean over the side if you're feeling sick, because that I was told by one fisherman that's the quickest way you can get to fall in.
Oh yeah, well, if you lean too far over the side, that's always true. But yes, absolutely. The other
So
thing is try and eat something. Like even if you just eat something like a raw carrot, and you can keep it down, that'll make you feel better. But no,
that's how
seasickness is.
that's how I got over it. It was I was recommended to have a good meal beforehand.
Yep, yeah. But as I said, Nelson got seasick, but only for a little while when he first went to sea, when he'd been on land for a long time, So if Nelson can get seasick, anyone can. But it's not. Once you get used to it, it's really cool. Like I used to like standing on my yacht, and I say yacht. It was a tourist boat. It was like a 70-ton, 70-foot long boat, sailing boat. And what I used to like to do is, even when it was really rough, eventually I could stand on the deck and not hold on to anything, just by you move your knees basically. But yeah, it's cool. Once you get used to it, it's really good. Really good.
So yeah, they stopped in Falmouth to weather the storm, and because of the sort of damage and repairs that needed to be done, they actually went back to Plymouth. Effectively like just about a week after they originally set sail, and this was quite embarrassing when they returned back to the port in Plymouth, and Drake dismissed James' side for unsatisfactory provision of ships for the voyage, and during this the crew were largely skeptical of Drake's ability and the other captain's ability, and the person who was pushing mutiny was a fellow called Thomas Doughty, who was I guess you could say like a counselor to the one of the benefactors, Sir Christopher Hatton. So the reason
Yes,
Doughty
he
was
was
there was
kind of a gentleman, AI. Not at all a sailor, but kind of a gentleman. And from what I understand, Drake had supreme contempt for him, basically. So, yeah.
I mean, they did start off relatively well, but the thing is, what Doughty was trying to do was to basically undermine Drake's command, and also he was talking to the other captains on the ship, saying that Drake's not up for it, and even encouraging crew to like semi-mutiny behavior, which of course um, is well, mutiny, incitement to mutiny is a death sentence. You know, that's something you don't do. Um,
The closest thing to God on a ship is the captain.
yes,
Like the only person the captain answers to is God, basically. If you don't do what the captain tells you, you can't run a ship any other way, basically. The captain has to be in charge. So my sympathies are entirely with Drake on this one.
yeah. And Drake is telling what makes it worth is Doughty knows what the actual expedition what it entails, but none of the crew, none of the sailors know. For all they know, that they're heading to Alexandria, and that they're going to be there, back, and there and back. By the time they got to the Moroccan coast, the crew realized that they were not bound for Alexandria. Though what's quite interesting is that when there's no actually recorded among any of you know later sailor accounts or anything of actually any resentment or anger among the sailors when it was explained why it was done and why there was secrecy. Because of course the reason there was secrecy is that there were spies. There was a wash of Spanish spies in England, particularly in the ports. That there were, it's just how it was. And there was also undoubtedly, because they were been passing through and around Spanish waters, Spanish controlled waters and Portuguese waters, they would have and been stopping along the way. It would have been better to keep up the pretense of, oh yeah, this
Also, I don't forget, all of the crew, the officers and the crew, they would have been in for shares of whatever profit the expedition makes. So you can see why they, if I'd have been Drake, I would have been saying, Spanish doubloons all over the place. And I don't think most of those sailors would have been, oh no, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? I think it would have been a reasonably popular expedition, despite the obvious dangers and the fact that it's going to last almost 3 years.
Yeah, no, true. And they do stop on a Mogador Island, which is an island off the coast of Morocco. And this is where the first um, action that Drake receives, where a crewman called John Fry is kidnapped, and he and Drake organizes tries to organize a rescue effort, and for him. And in the end, I mean, Fry he is released, and he does make it back home to England, but Drake ends up having to sail on um, and sort of leave him there, because otherwise the mission itself would have been at risk. And during this time, because this is going into the new year in January, there was, the fleet was stopped due to winds from the coast, coming up from the coast of Africa, um, and uh, they encountered 53 miles south of Mogador. They encountered three canters, which these Spanish fishing boats, um, and the English sailors used um, uh, used, or so say they took the boats, those boats by force, and forced them to join the fleet. So that was the first, I guess you say, like hostile action against the Spanish off the coast of Africa there. And then he would uh, release them. They would release the three cantors. Um, I think it was round the Tropic of Cancer, down the southern west coast of Morocco. Um,
Yeah, the two
in
tropics.
Mauritius.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the two tropics, for anyone who doesn't know, the tropical zone is the equator with the two tropics on north and south. So that's what AI is talking about here.
yeah. And they then land briefly at Cape Blanc in the Mauritius. Oh, sorry, Mauritania. So that's, you know, I was going to say that's more sub-Saharan
Yeah,
coastal Africa.
Mauritania is like uh, South Mid Atlantic, North Africa type place. Mauritius, of course, is in the Indian Ocean,
Yeah,
long way from where Drake was at this point.
yeah, no, Mauritania. Um, and then here, of course, the fleet takes a Spanish ship which was at anchor at anchor, and her crew had fled, and they entered a harbor by, presumably like local Arab, Berber people, and they began to trade, and clean the ships, and began sort of more repairs and gathering supplies. And one thing that Drake said is, the locals were very friendly to him, um, and the they did give them water and provisions for free. Um, Probably, and there's a bit of debate of why this was the case. I think because the Spanish were at this point hostile to these people in Mauritania. Um, there was, hostile actions, and they saw that the English, intervened. This was It was more of, oh, you're taking out an enemy, so we'll give you sort of like a compensation, like a thank you. Um, and
Yeah, you're probably right. AI, but at this point, Drake crosses the Atlantic and starts
Yeah,
to read the Spanish, I believe.
yeah. So that he stops at Cape Verde, and uh, they met up with some Portuguese people, and
Still the best way to go, by the way, guys. When yachts, sailing yachts, want to sail the Atlantic from west to east, like from Europe to America, they still go via Cape Verde. And the reason they do that is because you catch the trade winds, which are kind of useful.
yeah, and again, they are capturing more ships. They're releasing ships, but then they're capturing more ships as they go, like the Santa Maria. They also, at Cape Verde, come across a pilot, a Portuguese pilot, um, navigator, if you will, called Nuno da Silva, who is in possession of charts which become quite important for Drake for his uh, journey as he does cross over the Atlantic, and Nuno da Silva travels with him aboard. Um, Again, the reason why is, obviously the Spanish um, would harass Portuguese merchants and Portuguese ships. So again, the uh, the beyond sort of like the religious component that I talked about here, Portugal was still quite happy because they, and this is something that is with Drake, and they didn't tell De Silva or any Portuguese where they were going, but I think by the sounds of it, as they crossed the Atlantic from Cape Verde, De Silva and other Portuguese, they were figuring out what was happening, that this was a raiding mission against the Spanish, and so the Portuguese were quite happy to accommodate this because of to contain Spanish influence, particularly over.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yes.
Yeah, and also the Spanish at this point were claiming even like Portuguese territory. There were still claims against Portuguese territory as well.
Oh
They were
yeah,
not.
for sure, for sure.
They didn't really respect the boundaries at all, and you know, um, uh,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
absolutely true, guys. We're about halfway through the stream. Can I just say, please like the stream if you like it. If you don't like it, then I don't give a shit. But if you like it, give it a thumbs up. And also, you can support the channel via Subscribe Star for a whole $5 a month, which will get
yeah.
you 8 or sometimes 9 streams in a month, which I think is pretty good value. But if you'd like to do that, that's pinned. It's in the description of the stream, but it's also pinned at the bottom of the chat on YouTube. So please do that.
So
Yeah,
I just want to talk about the crossing of the Atlantic, because there is one incident that does occur which causes the sets like to actually cause a rift in the fleet, and this there's multiple accounts of what happened, but from what I can gather, it looks like Doughty um, basically takes more than his fair share of loot, and puts his the accusation is that he basically puts his hand in the average sailor pool of taking like some sailors loot from the Spanish, and so this causes and then he punishes other sailors which they claim unjustly, and so this is on the Mary, um, and um, Drake has to intervene in this and takes command of the relieves Naughty and takes command of the Mary himself. But this begins this trend of Doughty basically, um, and in some ways, I do wonder if he was a spy himself trying to sabotage this voyage. Um, and that's something that a lot of the sailors start saying, that is he like a secret Catholic who was working with the Spanish, trying to, who's a traitor and all that sort of stuff. And um, I don't know. It sounds plausible to me, Duke. It does sound plausible because every incident, every time they stop, he pulls some sort of stunt in this expedition. You know, um,
it's possible. I mean, equally, he just might have been an asshole. But yes, it
I
is
mean,
certainly possible.
yeah, it could have been an arsehole, but yeah, the sailors on the Mary basically refuse his command, and um, that forces Drake to actually take command himself. But regardless, with the help of De Silva, they cross the Atlantic, and they arrive at off the coast of Brazil at a place called Fernando de Noronha at the end of February, and um, it's a bay with several islands, and it was the location that De Silva had charted for them to cross. The idea was that this was far south enough that you wouldn't have the eyes of the Portuguese navy, but also the Spanish navy as well. So this part of Brazil, Duke, is very much populated by natives. Natives who were in friendly enough to trade because they were in touch with the Portuguese, but not directly under their remit of control. Well, not at this point anyway. So this would be, I'm just going to say, probably close to like your Paraguay, Uruguay, southern Portugal, sorry, southern Brazil. So yeah, that's
Yeah, all of the Europeans would have been pretty thinly spread in South America in those days. So yes, absolutely.
And the first Portuguese settlement that they come to is Salvador, and the De Silva, again, he doesn't really wish to enter the bay, the harbour itself, even though that they stop for water of provisions, due to the presence of galleys and even Spanish ships. Um, uh, uh, and I think De Silva actually makes landfall further down the coast. So it even though there's no record, it's somewhat hinted that they anchor one of the ships anchored and off the coast, and they sort of arrived a bit further south and made walk to the settlement to make with some sailors, but there was the risk was that De Silva said that there would be potentially looking for English ships traveling, because at this point, and it's pretty impressive, there wasn't actually any general alert among the Spanish or even Portuguese to that effect, that there were English ships. The assumption was that these English ships were just merchant vessels traveling to Brazil and back. They were aware, but they weren't aware that this was the same ships that were raiding off the coast of North Africa. They encounter further storms, and they lose the Christopher, and this prevents any further landing along the coast of Brazil. And then on the 14th of April, they then cross. They sail coastwise along the border of the Rio de la Plata and the border of Argentina and Uruguay. This one's quite important because at this time, it was all Spanish claimed. So beyond the in the Rio del Plata was beyond Brazil, but it was Spanish claimed. But at this point, there were no Spanish presence at all in Argentina or Uruguay.
It's probably worth pointing out to people now that the whole of the New World, what today is North, Central, and South America, all of it had been divided up by the Pope in Rome between the Spanish and Portuguese, because they were their most Catholic majesties. So it's worth pointing that out. But yeah.
Let me just see if I can bring up a map a minute of the yeah, I got a good map here. Hold on a sec. Just so bugger, let's say it's a good map. It's not a good map. It's too bloody small.
I've got 3 good maps, but StreamYards won't let me put any of them up because it's not a system that StreamYards understands. So
the trouble is, the map I got here is perfect because it actually shows like 1580s like control, but and it's annoying because we're describing it, and it for people it would be harder to.
But yeah, I don't look. Basically, guys, and Davey is right about this, of course. But basically, the whole of the New World, which is to say North, Central, and South America, had been
Ignorant.
divided up between Spain and Portugal by the Pope. And everyone else going there was really illegal, although in the longer term, that didn't work out too well.
Okay, I think I've got it here actually. Let me just. I don't even know where I am now. Oh, hold on a sec. All right. Here we go.
Anyway, at this point, Drake is about a third of the way through, well, maybe a quarter of the way through his voyage.
Yeah. Can you share them? I've got the map. Can you share it?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So I've got it for. So you see the viceroyalty of Rio del La Plata. This is where, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but this is where Drake and his fleet is at the moment, and you can see, this is where they they encounter some of the initial problems, because they go back from effectively, into hostile territory, and in this small purview you do have small Spanish settlements, and again the point is they want to try and get around to the Pacific without
Yes.
alerting the
Yes.
Spanish, and because otherwise they could be intercepted, at Magellan's pass and further south, and this, that this would be the end of it. And you can see various Spanish forts. So you have like Carmen San Jose, and Nivero, Colonna, Flora de la Cana, and um, it says the Falkland Islands there, but at this time there was no station on the Falkland Islands. I don't know why they got that there, but yeah, that's where they are at this point. And the Christopher rejoins the fleet after being lost during the storm and turbulent weather, and
It's
and
about this stage, AI, that Drake and his ships head south to
yeah,
go around the southern tip of South America.
yeah, and at this point, this is where you have, the Swan is separated from the fleet, um, and then a rough, then like a week later, in May, a storm also forces the Mary from the fleet as well, and uh, on the Mary, Drake's brother is on the ship along with uh, uh, I think his, what was his brother was Thomas, and also De Silva, the Portuguese navigator as well. And so therefore they are separated at this point. Um, and then he is reunited with the Swan. Um, the reunion with oh, which bloody ship was it? The reunion with the Christopher, because it did cheer up the crew and Drake, while they were going around the Cape land, he called it the Cape of um, Hope, because of the unlikelihood of the Christopher
It's
returning.
Cape Horn. It's Cape Horn, mate.
Yeah, but he called it Land of Cape Hope.
Oh, okay, fine. Because the actual Cape
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Good Hope is South Africa, not South America. Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know why he called it the Land of Cape Hope. Then you had the Cape Hope. I don't know why it didn't stick on, but probably because it was Spanish territory, so it didn't stick. But he called it, he called the Cape there Hope. So yeah, just to confuse everyone. Um, and so uh, again, they have to stop round Cape Hope, which is in Argentina. The entrance of I think they call it Cape Blanco, and uh, that Bianco Brian or something like that.
Yeah,
That's the Spanish.
they face the normal, very heavy, rough seas going around Cape Horn, which you always face
Yeah.
at the tip of South America.
And
But
what
then Drake and his men become the first English guys to get into the Pacific.
Yeah, they do. And while they're in the islands in Tierra del Fuego, Drake goes ashore to light fires to try and get the lost ships to sort of signal. And at this point, he actually does encounter the sort of indigenous inhabitants of the Tierra del Fuego Islands, and uh, apparently they do come across. It comes across in a rather grim fashion remains of um, or remnants of Magellan's crew and ships, or fragments of the ships around Tierra del Fuego, and it was sort of viewed by many as an ominous omen or something like that of how wrong things could go this far. Um, and also, there's a rumor that going around that the indigenous inhabitants ate the some of the unlucky crew members of the of Magellan's.
Not entirely impossible, given
No, no,
given the indigenous inhabitants of Tierra del Fuego, who even 250 years later weren't much better. But anyway, yeah. But AI, let's move the voyage on into the Pacific.
all right, hold on, because I mean, um, so hold on, because I don't want to miss like anything important here. Um, yeah, so he just has friendly relations with the indigenous lot. Uh, they do steal items apparently, but Drake sort of tells the sailors not to effectively worry about it because he didn't want to start any problems. Again, we saw that with Cook and others. There was a common theft. Um,
Yeah, there's a
Doughty,
fine line between the thieving natives and starting a little war somewhere. Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
yeah, it's kind of like I mean, I think they stole a hat. Like a hat was stolen, so and Drake was like, "Come on, guys, we're not going to waste ammunition on, on a stolen hat. Let's let it go." But yeah, so Thomas Doughty and his brother John um, uh, are up to their old tricks again, and there's over Doughty and a sailor named Gregory, and it was over. Um, Basically, Doughty wanted to punish a sailor for insubordinate language, and there was apparently insulting and harsh words were used. Um, uh, and we don't know what those words were, but yeah, probably you could imagine. Um, and it nearly resolved in this sailor called Gregory, um, landing one on Doughty. And so there was Gregory issued a formal complaint to Captain John Chester, um, saying that Doughty had actually been stoking mutiny against Chester and also against Drake. So Doughty and his brother John are ordered aboard the Christopher. Thomas refuses, so Drake has him formally removed, and also prevents any short protests over the matter by a few sailors who were friendly with Doughty, and returns to Pelican. At this point, the Swan was also rejoined the fleet, but was really badly damaged. And the fleet then sailed south. Others said that the fleet sailed north to return to Cape Blanco, the one that was Cape Hope. But what they're doing is effectively it's mostly believed by a fellow called Fletcher, who's writing the accounts, that he's looking for the Mary because it's still missing from the fleet, and believes that it may have run aground in the Straits of Magellan. And so that this is why he's sort of going back and forth round the Pacific Atlantic crossing. And then they anchor at Porto Santa Cruz in Argentina, the fleet, and then they go on to land again in Patagonia, a port in Patagonia which was used by Magellan, and at this point, a leaking Mary rejoins the fleet, and because of effectively Drake says to the crew of Mary, the damage is so poor that they end up burning and abandoning the ship. It's not it's not recoverable.
Which is entirely fair enough.
Yeah. They met again in Patagonia, so the far south here. You have like maybe the odd Spanish mission and fort, but the entire land with its native inhabitants, largely separate from Spanish control.
I would be amazed, AI, if at that time, like in the 1570s, there'd been 1,000 Spanish in that whole area. I would have been amazed.
I mean, in Patagonia, Duke, even up until the 1800s, there were
Yes.
still parts of Patagonia which were had no Spanish presence at all.
Yes.
It was very sparsely
Yes.
populated by natives as well, and but that's the thing. It's you had Welsh people would go there eventually, but
Yeah. Eventually, there was a Welsh colony who raised sheep there. I know that. Yes.
yeah.
They were famously in 1982 given they were told they wouldn't have to fight the British in the Falkland Islands because understandably most of them didn't want to have to fight the Welsh Guards, for example. But there you go. But
Yeah. But yeah, in Patagonia, the relations with the natives go south when sailor Robert Whittahay and a gentleman on board called Robert Winterhay uh, demonstrates a bow and a string, and apparently it breaks, or the string breaks, and that sort of signals to the Patagonians that this is a hostile act, and a fight breaks out, and a attack breaks out. They end up fighting back, and I think there's a Patagonian. They say like chieftain, but maybe like a leading warrior, who's instigating the violence against the English is killed, and the rest scatter, and the rest of the attackers scatter. But two Englishmen are killed. So yeah, they go on, and there's no like reprisal attacks, and they carry on their journey. At this time, on the 30th of June, all crew members are summoned to one of the islands of Patagonia where they're docked, and they address the tension involving Doughty by sort of organising a form of jury and a trial for capital crimes, and this is where Drake prosecutes and Doughty defends. The jury renders a guilty verdict, so this is on mutiny, and he is sentenced to death um, on 2nd of July, so 2 days after trial, and the penalty of death is a beheading, which was fitting at the time for nobility, because nobility get beheading, commoners are hung. And apparently Drake and Doughty the night before dined and took communion sacrament together, prayed, and um, he was buried alongside the Oliver and Winterhay, who were killed by Patagonians at a marked graves on the island there.
I'm sure that was a lovely dinner. But yeah.
Yeah, and that was the, so that was the end of Doughty and his shenanigans. And as a result, according to Fletcher, morale does rise among the troops. You now
Yeah,
get.
and it's worth pointing out that this dude had been doing this for months prior to this. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't that Drake suddenly decided, oh no, I'm going to execute this dude. No, not at
No.
all.
No.
Drake had given him chance after chance after chance to stop doing this, and he wouldn't.
No, he was pissing about, and
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
pushing his luck, and this is how it happened. And because now Drake, being the diplomat he was, he realized that he just killed one of the closest associates to one of his main benefactors, and it is also worth noting that word would probably get back to England, particularly when you had ships returning, because they were
Yeah, probably not before he would get back, because
well,
very few
yeah,
English
yeah,
ships were going from there. So
yeah.
the chances of anyone finding out about this before Drake gets home are not that huge. And also, Drake knows the Queen. It's not like he has no influence. So
No.
I don't think he was that worried. And I
Well,
think that's also why he did the trial, because it wasn't Drake who condemned him, it was the other officers.
yeah, it was the other officers. It was to show that he did like a
Yeah.
proper English trial on this Patagonian island, and he did give them, I mean, it's worth noting that Doughty chose to defend himself. He could have had like a appointed defense counsel. He chose to defend himself.
Yeah, absolutely. Drake made it as fair as he possibly could. And frankly, I would have shot the guy in the back of the head sometime before Drake executed him. But that's just me, you know?
Yeah, because he'd been a prick. But because there was obviously this, sense of, oh, I've done, a nobleman has been killed. I've had to force because of mutiny. So as a way of, I guess, like an olive branch, or sign of goodwill, so that it's not seen as like an affront on his benefactor. The decision is made to change the name of the ship. So instead, the Pelican would become the Golden Hind, named after Sir Christopher Hatton's sigil, his symbol.
And a better name anyway. So yeah,
It is a better name, the Golden
yes,
Hind,
yes.
and it is uh, uh, at this point the ship is also like redecked out. They use a bark, and there's like as they discovered there's repairs, so the ship is looking better. It's gone through like a new look phase as well on this journey, um they also.
I think it's worth saying, AI, that from this point onwards, as Drake's expedition heads into the Pacific, as you said, morale definitely improves, because they haven't got this guy constantly trying to undermine Drake, but also the expedition becomes more and more successful.
It does, because one thing that they're able to eat is called it's the Spanish call it caneleo, or I think it's called winter's bark. I was mentioning earlier, and what it was a, it's I was going to say it's like a fruit herb, and it prevents, unknowingly, but at the time it prevents scurvy. It it consumed in like stews and
So it's
soup
got
and what have
vitamin
you.
C in it, basically.
Basically, it's got vitamin C,
Yeah.
and the natives tell them that this is um, you know is able to, from like Spanish traders and everything. It's able to convey that this is good for sailors, and so they're able to take it. And along this journey up through into the Pacific, no one has lost to scurvy. That's something that is nobody's actually lost to scurvy, which is quite. I mean, that people did die to scurvy on the way, but not up this bit. It's worth mentioning. So yeah. Did you want to do a part two of this, Duke, at some point?
If you think we need to AI, I'm quite happy to. Yes,
I think so, because we've
because
done the
we're
Atlantic.
only about we're not even halfway. Well, we're about halfway on this voyage at the moment, and I can do another 20 minutes or so, and we'll be rushing it if we do that.
Yeah,
So,
I don't want to. I don't want to rush it, because the raiding, the running from the Spanish ships. This will be the next part,
yeah,
and also the discovery of North California, Oregon,
I mean,
Vancouver.
it's also worth mentioning that Drake captures 14 Spanish uh, vessels on this part of the voyage.
Yeah.
It's quite successful, basically.
Well,
Uh,
to put it in real terms, the amount of gold and silver ingots and gems and everything else that he
yes.
acquires constitutes around about half of the annual income that the
No, no,
Crown of
no, no.
England.
It's more. It's more. It's more AI. When he arrives back in England, including the spices that he collects in the Far East and the Indian Ocean, because after the raiding bit, he goes. And you're right. We do need to do a part two of this. But after the raiding bit, he goes through uh, the Far East and then through the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, the
And
Philippines, and yeah.
yeah. And all of the spices that he collects, in addition to all the Spanish gold and silver, when he arrives back in England, the amount that the Queen gets, just the Queen, not Drake or his crew, is worth more than the entire tax revenue of England for that year.
Mm. And they even had to dump, they had to
Yeah.
dump some
Yep.
of the treasure on the way. I mean, when they the spoiler, but they do run aground at some point in, I think, in
Yes.
the Philippines, and Drake makes the decision to dump some of the cannons and armor first, for obvious reasons,
Yep.
which was
The heavy stuff.
a bit controversial among some of his officers that were like, hold on a sec, let's not, let's just think this through. And he's like, no, 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 we dump it, because while they were stranded, there was a Spanish, there were several Spanish ships on their tail, so there wasn't like enough time to be, messing around. But they do end up dumping some silver and gold. And
Yep.
the thing though is, at this point in history, silver was actually worth more than the gold. Like silver ingot was worth more, considerably more, because the Spanish held the monopoly on silver producing. Because, of course, in Peru, um, the mountain ranges around there were rich with silver mines, and that's where most of the world's silver was coming from at this point. I mean,
Fair
obviously
enough.
it used to be like central, southern, Central Europe, maybe
yeah.
the East, but now it was the Spanish. And yeah,
Guys, this is what we're going to do, okay? If it suits you, AI. Next week I'm going to be doing history of Hope Not Hate,
yeah,
the vile NGO in Britain with Atterman. So if you're interested in something a bit more modern, we're going to be talking about Hope Not Hate, which is a vile communist, liberal, Zionist group in Britain. And that's going to be with Atterman. But if you're willing to do it, AI, maybe the week after that, we'll do
yeah, I
part
can't.
2 of this.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do next week, so that's fine. So yeah, I'll do the part 2 the following week, and
Let's
yeah, I
do that,
mean,
mate. Let's do that. We'll pick it up as Drake and his men get into the Pacific.
to answer the question in chat, sorry, by Davey, was it
Yeah,
Drake or Cook that returned with banana potato? It was Drake. I believe it was Drake that returned with. I think also potato. I think yeah, it was Drake who returned with potato.
not too sure, to be honest.
I know it was so
I'm
well.
pretty sure it was Raleigh who got tobacco.
It was Walter Raleigh that got tobacco and cocoa, particularly tobacco. Because again, tobacco at this time, fun fact, everyone, tobacco at this time was only licensed technically by the Spanish. The Spanish could only handle tobacco. If an English merchant ship was caught and stopped in Spanish waters with tobacco, um, they'll all be captured and the ship be sunk. So it was because it was considered piracy. They weren't allowed to the licensing. You could only have it. But yeah, Raleigh had this this behaviour of a bit of privateering, pirating. And the funny thing is, with the
Like most English sailors in those days, to be
and
fair.
and the thing is, even to this day, the Argentinians, whenever and I do listen to like Argentinian, TV channels and things like that because I understand a bit of Spanish. They do refer to the English, even to this day, particularly those on the Falklands, as pirates, and
I know.
and I guess they're using it as a pejorative, but that sounds pretty fucking cool. Call them as
Yeah, no,
pirates.
I always take it as a compliment, frankly.
Yeah,
But
basically, like we come to your settlements, we take all your stuff, and then we fuck off home and make a profit. Like
yeah,
that's pretty cool. Not gonna lie.
absolutely.
Um,
AI, would you like to plug your channel, sir?
yeah, check out AI Shiatori on YouTube. I've I was gonna say I might do a video tomorrow, titled the um a video about non-engagement and whether we engage in you know on certain things, and I'll be talking of course about the referencing the Odyssey. The I mean, in many ways what we talked about today is like an English Odyssey, where Sir Francis is his own Odyssey in many ways.
Well, yeah, or Anson's voyage, AI, same.
Yeah,
Captain
same.
Cook's voyages, same. Yeah, the England's had many odysseys, I'd
We've
say.
had many Odysseys, and
Yes.
but yeah, so we're going to be talking about. I'll be talking about that. I'll be also talking about the you know reaction about that. Is it that I think Andrew particularly. I haven't really talked about the Odyssey. I haven't watched the film. I haven't really got interest in it. But
I'm
I've
not
sort of come to
going to watch the film. I've seen enough reviews of it that it's shit, but
yeah
and
I
trailers, but I'm never going to watch that movie.
no I've read the book. I've when I was
Sure,
younger.
me too. Me too.
I've probably gone through countless audio adaptations, radio adaptations going back, you know, on the Odyssey, and I have no interest in engaging in Christopher Nolan's.
I can
I
tell you
think
one thing: Helen of Troy was not a Bantu African. I can
no,
tell you this for a fact.
but I also have sort of come to a thought that I think Nolan created this film as a way of just like causing political stir. And so
Probably.
I've come and I've just sort of come to the view as part of the video tomorrow, like we shouldn't, because when, if you remember when that Citizen film came out, the Vigilante Citizen film came out,
Hmm.
the only people to speak out against it was like the German government, and maybe like I think the British government, like
I thought it
censor
was
or
all
something.
right. I thought it was pretty good, actually, to be honest.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I mean it. I haven't seen it in full yet, but I'll definitely do
yeah,
one
no,
day review of it.
I watched it when it came out. I thought, yeah, pretty good.
But the left didn't do a, you know, any sort of, they didn't really talk about it like, not like
Oh, they
Navarro
did.
media.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Not really, not in
Oh,
the
yeah,
publication.
hugely. They did. But you know who talked about it more was the shit lips, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but like like random shit lives online and stuff. But the actual like all like, you know, I don't think even Hope Not Hate didn't really publicize anything
But
about
look,
it.
I don't watch any of the left, all right? Because I basically, if someone reveals to me they're a genuine leftist, I just block them if it's on X or something like that. But yeah, loads of shit libs slagged it off, and I will block quite a lot of those people too. But I can tell you, loads of shit libs slagged off that Citizen
Well, they,
Vigilante movie,
I don't
which I
I don't
thought was
think,
quite good, by the way. He didn't
but
do
no,
anything bad in it, as far
not
as I know.
not in comparison to the Odyssey, like from the right point of view.
No,
I think
I don't agree. I don't agree with you on this. I get what
I
you're
don't see
trying
it.
to say. I get
I
what you're
don't
trying to say, AI, but I don't agree on this.
I just don't see it. So that's my point of the video tomorrow. It's like, you know, I
Mm.
think when you have people like Nolan, because the reason he did it is just to like trigger, what do they call it?
I
Trigger
have no
the
idea
chuds.
why he did it, AI. I'm not inside his head, but I suspect he's a shitlib, basically.
Well, basically it's to trigger people like us, people on our side, people like
Well,
our
he's a
viewers. It's to
shitlib.
trigger.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah, it
shitlib.
is a trigger.
But
And so my thesis on this, my approach is,
did you like Dunkirk, AI? Because I didn't. I thought it was shit.
I no, I watched it and I didn't like it, and I mean there were multiple things I didn't like about it. I
Yes.
thought there was a film in 2007 called Atonement. It was an awful romantic film. I remember the girls when I was at school were really into it because it was like a romantic film.
Uh huh.
But there was a scene in that where the main character, he is, I can't remember the story, but the only thing I remember about it is he's in Dunkirk.
Uh huh.
He's evacuated from Dunkirk. Even in that silly romantic film of like early 2000, they actually depict the size of the number of men, British
Yes.
men, on the
Yes.
beaches at Dunkirk,
Yes.
but also the actual size of the Royal Navy. Because in that film Atonement, the Royal Navy is massive, and it shows the massive operation,
Sure. Sure.
and also it shows you know, the I guess the naval power that Britain had at the time, which
Yeah,
did keep the
the
Germans at bay.
people today, they know about the little boats that went across, and they did, and they were very brave, the sailors on those. But all they were doing was taking the soldiers from the beach out to uh, ships that were mostly Royal Navy ships. To be honest, there were some merchant ships there as well, but mostly they were Royal Navy ships. And you know, you watch Nolan's film, and it's basically about a Spitfire and one destroyer, which is very obviously a 1970s destroyer because of the radar on it. But you know,
Yeah,
whatever.
that's that. But look, I mean, Nolan, I think as a director, he is
He has no sense of wonder at all.
he's got
None.
no sense of wonder, but he's got no sense of attention to detail. I actually think he is probably one of the most haphazard, clumsy people. Even like this random director who did, as I said, like Atonement, which was a romantic film. It wasn't like a
Yeah,
war
yeah,
film,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it was accurate. At least you could say the director and the writers in that and the prop master were able to either look at footage or read
AI,
about.
look, I tell you, like, I haven't seen Nolan's Odyssey, and I never will. I won't watch it. But I can tell you that Helen of Troy was not a Bantu African.
But
I can tell you that the armor in that film has nothing whatever to do with anyone in Bronze Age Greece or even in Classical Age Greece. Nothing at all. They didn't sail around in Viking longships, which is the ship in that movie. They didn't do that either. No one was wearing 15th century plate armor in those days, which Nolan shows with the supposed giants in his movie. It's just it's a shit film. And also the black dude, the rapper dude, is really supposed to be Homer in that film. And then, of course, we come on to the 4'5" greatest warrior in Greece, who is actually a woman pretending to be a man. I'm sorry, I just can't be dealing with any of that.
But that's my point. Is the video is like, just don't engage with it.
Yeah, but he'll win all the awards at the Oscars.
Yeah,
because
he will.
all the shit libs will vote for
and
it.
There'll be more films. So my point, Duke, is tomorrow's video is I'm just going to be saying particularly people on the right, don't engage with it. They create this to trigger the right wingers, to trigger the chuds.
I don't think they do. AI.
It really is.
I don't think they do. I think you see this is, I'm going to have to disagree with you to this extent. What I am afraid about this is that because this movie is going to make a load of money, because normies are fucking idiots, basically. I'm sorry, there's no other way to describe them. Because many normies are fucking idiots, this movie's going to make a load of money, and it's just going to give Hollywood the excuse to carry on with its race mixing, gender mixing bollocks that it's been doing for the last 15 years. It's not going to change. But you know what? It's still dying. The Hollywood and cinema is still dying because of it. Because whilst this movie might make some money, God knows what reason, because all the people I like that have watched it have said it's boring, apart from anything else. People are this film's made money, so Hollywood will say, "Oh no, we can carry on doing this shit," because they are determined, because they're the propaganda arm of the people who run us today, and that includes quite a lot of small hats, particularly in Hollywood, as you know. Anyway, but also plenty of Gentiles. These people,
not that many.
quite a lot, mate, quite a lot.
I mean, it's overrepresented, definitely.
Yeah, I wish there weren't as many, to be honest. They are.
But if you look at the Rings of Power, though.
Oh, for God's sake, that shit's just come back, hasn't it?
Yeah, if you look at the first 2 seasons, you had.
I wouldn't dream of ever watching an episode of that, but okay.
If you look at the first 2 seasons when they were released, there were so many people, or content creators online who, particularly, people who were, you had people who were Tolkien fans, but you also had people who were, I'm just be blunt, let's be honest, who do like sloppy culture war stuff. People like the Quartering and those sorts of
and
Tim Paul, just sloppy clickbait stuff, and they cashed it on that. And if you look at the viewing figures on Amazon, it was very high. It did very well. But
no, it didn't. I'm sorry, you're wrong about that.
Anyway. Well, the first season did relatively well.
No. Only about 38% of people even finished the first season, which is
which is
very
more.
low.
Yeah, but that's my
Very low.
point. But that's my point. It was better than the Amazon's predicted results. I mean, they put a lot of money
No,
into it.
no,
If you
it
look at it.
wasn't. No, it wasn't AI. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's
they
the
were
most
predicted.
AI. It's the most expensive TV series ever made. They were hoping for like 75, 80, 85% people finishing it. It was so terrible. They didn't even manage 40%. That was way below what they predicted.
But all internal Amazon said it did well because they commissioned more seasons, and so this goes back to my point, Duke. Is yes, you're right. I wasn't trying to trick you in saying that, but my point was, yeah, you're right. It didn't do well. Of course, it didn't do well, but it was commissioned more. Now, why was it commissioned more? Why
Because
would they
Amazon
commission more
don't give a
seasons?
shit about wasting money because they're not a film company. They sell crap to people, basically.
Yeah, it's a propaganda thing, and that's the thing. Is part of it is, I honestly think part of it is just, triggering the right wingers into talking about cultural stuff.
Listen, I don't think there's anything wrong in us talking about some culture war subjects. They're worth talking about, some of them. But I tell you what, I've been up all night, yeah, and it's nearly 8 o'clock in the morning for me, and I haven't been to bed. At some stage, AI, if you want to do it, I'll do a stream with you on movies and TV series and stuff. Quite happy to do that. But I can't do it now. I'm just too knackered, mate.
Well, so I'll do a video tomorrow or later on for you, and then
I'll
when you're
watch
able,
it
you can
later,
watch
mate.
it.
I'll
Yeah,
watch it later.
you watch it at one point, and I think it'll be better if because I can sort of go through like my thought process on this, and people can like put in the comments below what they think. But fundamentally, the reason I'm going to talk through this is because I think for us on the right, if we could get like zero, if Nolan was to release like a medieval thing or something like that, and it was like total, full of like trannies and gay people and black people, and it, like obviously to bait us, if we just go, oh yeah, whatever, like, because obviously they're expecting a response when they put Elliot Page in there, or that tranny, whatever it's called, in there. Everyone was expecting. Of course, it's bait.
Sure, yeah,
Of
you
course,
might
it's
be right.
bait. Of
You
course, it's
might be
bait.
right.
But
You might
I
be
just
right.
think if we all say like, so what? What would, like, if the collectively all the online lot? I mean, I will
Well,
never
if
get
we
this.
all say "so what" to every single thing they do, then they'll just carry on doing it more anyway. AI.
See,
That's not a way of
I
winning.
I
That's not a
don't.
way of winning.
Well, I think if we say so what, and then we encourage, you encourage like Mel Gibson directing, doing his own thing.
Well,
I,
yeah,
I
but anything Mel Gibson does will just be anti-English. But whatever. Yeah. All right.
I'm
Let's
yeah,
be
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
Let's be honest.
Well,
But
as long as there's no English people in the story, I guess. As long as there's no English people in the story.
yes, I was going to say if it's like there's no English people in it, then fair enough. But if there are, we'll be accused of Nazi crimes in America in the 18th century. But whatever. I see your point, but I don't think that ignoring it is a way of winning. I'm not saying that we're winning as we're doing it now. What is winning is that Hollywood is dying overall because most people are not going to the cinema anymore. They're just not. It's too expensive, and the films are shit, basically.
Yeah, but the streaming platforms, which are like the main money makers, right?
Well,
Currently,
are they money makers? I'm not so sure about that even these days.
I am told that Netflix documentaries do generate most of their revenue.
No
They're quite
idea. I've never
popular.
watched one. I've never
I don't know.
watched one.
I mean, I don't know what the documentaries are. I mean, I think they're just like random
I
documentaries
can't
on
help
things.
thinking they'd be shit lib if they're on Netflix, but whatever.
I'm guessing it's like because I know like murder mysteries are very popular among particularly like women, because women love like murder mysteries. So I'm
Yeah,
guessing like
well, yeah, women like bodice rippers, so that doesn't
yeah,
prove
there's like a
anything,
I
really.
mean there's like a sexual element to like murder. It's like murder porn. That was a
Yeah,
phenomenon before the internet.
women, thousands of women wanted to marry Jeffrey Dahmer or whatever. I mean, women are
Charles
strange.
Manson. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's like
what can you say? Chicks are strange, mate. Yeah. Anyway, do go and check out
yeah.
AI Shia Tori's channel. I'm not sure if you're still William Grenville, but you were. If you put either of those in on YouTube, you'll probably find his channel. We'll be back in 2 weeks to finish the story of Sir Francis Drake's circumnavigation of the world. And next week, we're going to be doing the history of Hope Not Hate, which might be pretty cool, actually. Or pretty vile, but pretty cool at the same
We're gonna
time.
go from a heroic tale of adventure and discovery to a dark underbelly of paedophiles,
Yes,
Marxists,
yes,
and
exactly.
questionable criminal stalkers. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, AI, I've already done the Fabian Society on our history streams. So it's not like I don't do traitor anti-British organizations. I do. I've done the Fabian Society, and we're going to do Hope Not Hate next week,
Yeah,
which I think,
and
if
just
anything, is even worse. But,
and it is worth noting because I know Hope Not Hate monitor you, myself,
yes.
others, and your this channel. So we are sort. I mean, I guess putting your head above the parapet and bearing in mind, Hope Not Hate are now in government. They have got government
Yep, they
positions.
are. They're in Andy
So
Burnham's government. Yes.
so one or two things may happen, Duke. We could all, like me and Mitch and Adam, could end up in the gulag as a result. Hopefully not. Um,
I
but
don't think so. We'll
I
be careful. We'll be careful what we say.
we'll be careful. But yeah, I mean, they are. The reason we're going to talk about them is because to understand them, you understand their tactics, and you understand the tactics of the left. And if you
And
understand the tactics of
where their funding comes from, which is taxpayers' money mostly.
but also, I mean, the Hope Not Hate. I mean, a bit of a spoiler here, but they are just a branch of the government, of the intelligence
Oh
services of the
yeah,
government.
absolutely.
Yeah,
They'll go and talk about the far right and neo Nazis and all the rest of it. They don't have what they did actually. They used to have a page on Anne Widdecombe
they don't
on
know. No, they took it.
Hope Not Hate's website. But strange to say, after a leftist assassinated her by hitting her around the head about 28 times with a hammer, you know, a 78-year-old little old lady. Hope Not Hate removed that. It's funny that, isn't it? Funny.
Yeah, it is funny, and
And the police came out initially saying he's a white guy and it's got nothing to do with politics. Yeah, right. Okay. Sure.
yeah.
And we're all stupid. But
Well, Hope
yeah.
Not Hate. Hope Not Hate want. I mean, the Hope Not Hate. By the way, they love the Tommy Robinson archetype. They
Oh
love Tommy
yeah.
Robinson because they want the far right to be these mindless thugs, walking, with the football, and this isn't me throwing shade at football fans or the people because a lot of
Well,
them are
I don't care about the football fans. My thing with Tommy Robinson is he's an Israel shill, basically.
yeah,
You
but
know, I don't care he's a
he
football fan.
he
It's
larps he larps with the Hope Not Hate. One thing that, and I think it was Bowden who talked about this actually in one of his speeches when he talked about the Searchlight. I think it was called Searchlight before Hope Not Hate the magazine, or Spotlight, or whatever it's called. And he said that they love the archetype of this thug, walking about on the street attacking, minorities and all that sort of stuff. But when it comes to the cultured thug, so the far right who is into art, history, like we're doing politics, high art, or something, that's where they start to freak out, because that's where you are, you know, you're actually engaging into a realm of understanding about your own people and your own self, which is something they can't control or even
That's why I
comprehend.
do history streams, AI.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think English school children, when I was at school, we learned a bit about Sir Francis Drake. I don't think English
I
school
didn't,
children
and
do now. No,
no, I
exactly.
didn't, and I come from that neck of the, I only know about it because number one, I'm into history, but also because I lived down the area, and it
Yeah.
was so prevalent in the local culture, the local history, and
When I was a child in the 1970s, that was still part of the school curriculum, that you learnt about people like Sir Francis Drake, because they were great English and British guys. That's why you learn about them.
yeah, no, didn't. I mean, the one thing in history now that dominates is the rise of Nazism. They love to teach that, and
Oh, for
the,
God's sake.
and of course the Holocaust cotton industry, which is
Which is amazing, given that Britain destroyed itself as a great power fighting against that. But whatever,
well,
it's like,
it's kind of like, well, it's, I mean, it's not the place and time for this stream, but to say this, but yeah,
yeah,
it's a shame. It's a shame that we don't learn about, more important
other
things,
things,
because I
yes.
mean, how many, proportionally speaking, how many people were killed during, you know, I mean, I don't want to sound like a leftist, this, but how many people died during, the Spanish wars and conquests in the Americas? How much of the popular? I mean, bearing in mind, a lot died not because of like direct Spanish fault, but
Yeah,
down
I
to
don't even
germs.
I don't even give a shit. How many people did the Aztecs kill? How many people did the Mayans kill? How many people did the Cherokees kill? I don't
I
care.
mean, the
Really,
Aztecs
I
did.
just don't care.
I mean, the Aztecs wiped out entire city-states and tribes. I mean, they
Yeah,
committed genocide.
I know AI, but
Yeah,
that's my point. This is just the way of the world,
well, that's just, yeah, it's how reality works, and
It's just the way of the world, mate.
yeah.
Do you know what? I used to live in northern Natal in South Africa, and I was next to Zululand. And do you know how the Zulus became a great empire? Was wiping out all the tribes around them.
Well, I know from um, somebody who I know who's in South Africa at the moment.
Hmm.
They've recently had problems in South Africa where you've had the Zulus going around the street trying to kick out Nigerians and Zimbabweans and
Oh yeah,
Shona and
not just them, mate. All of the South African black guys don't like the immigrant black guys. Isn't
no.
it weird? Ain't it weird? And they all detest the Indians, of course, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I
Um,
saw, he showed me phone footage from Durban. There was an entire,
yes.
like it was more like a horde of, of Zulus, like something like from the film Zulu, but they're
Yeah,
all wearing like jeans
they've
and
been doing this for decades in
ANC
parts of
tactics. Yeah,
Durban.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's the old ANC tactic, and what they were doing was they were just going around attacking people for hiring, you know, Africans outside of South Africa, and
Yep.
you know, I mean, this is just, they are, the Zulus are in a very aggressive race of people, and the only way you can deal with them, if you want to do anything, I'm sorry, when they were
You
saying,
kind of have
I
to
said to him,
stand up to them. Yes.
I said, like, literally, I said to him, he said, like, I don't know what the police are going to do, and I messaged back to him and said, a whiff of grape shot. I mean, that's literally how you deal with them. I'm sorry, but that's just how it works.
I used to have Zulu soldiers. They're great guys, but you have to stay on top of them. But anyway, this is a long way from our subject.
Yeah,
We will be back on Saturday, British time, which is early Sunday morning for people in Australia. And we'll be doing our normal look at current events and news and what have you. We'll probably have some words to say about that scumbag Zelensky from Ukraine, visiting the equal scumbag Andy Burnham from Manchester and or wherever the fuck he comes from.
And also the
yeah.
MAGA redemption arc, where they've now got back on board with Zelensky in Ukraine. They're on board with Zelensky in Ukraine.
Well, I don't think that's a redemption arc personally, but okay.
Well, I jokingly call it
Oh,
redemption.
I'm sorry.
Not,
You were being sarcastic.
I was being
Anyway.
sarcastic. I
Okay,
forget.
sorry,
I
I
forget your
I missed that.
Sorry, I forgot you're a bit sleep deprived at the moment.
Yeah, mate, I haven't been to sleep for 28 or 29 hours, but yes, you're right. It's not going to make any difference. I mean, Russia's going to win in Ukraine no matter what Europe or America does. And America hasn't got any more missiles to give the Ukrainians or to use on the Iranians, and nor is Europe. So it's not really going to make much difference, to be honest. I mean, Zelensky is talking about starting a factory in Britain to build drones. Yeah. And if the Russians don't just put a couple of ballistic missiles on it, which they could, because there is no ballistic missile defense in Britain whatsoever, like none. But if they don't do that, you're looking at maybe 3 years until the first drones start arriving in Ukraine. I don't think Ukraine's going to be a thing in 3 years' time. Certainly not as it is today. So I don't think it's going to matter.
Can we just produce a navy, an army, an air force? I mean, is that too much to ask? Like,
what you mean for Britain rather than Ukraine? Don't be silly, AI. Don't be silly. Everything we have must go to Ukraine, because who we're desperate about is not Britain. Because if we were desperate about Britain, we'd be stopping the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of third world economic migrants coming in every year, not worrying about Russia in Ukraine. You know, I know what worries me. It's not whether Russia takes the next town in Ukraine. It's how many hundreds of thousands of third world migrants arrive in Britain. I care about that, not Ukraine at all.
I mean, not to use a NATO talking point here, but I know they'll say, you know, Russia could be goose stepping down bloody Paris promenade or something.
Yeah, no,
in 12 months.
How? When it's taken 4 years to take the bits of Ukraine it's taken. Don't be silly.
But I was going to say, like, you know, if every European country had like the military model that currently Britain offers, I mean, probably they could at this point.
Well, then they could, yeah. If they had the British armed forces, yes, absolutely. You know, Britain has a toy navy, a toy army, and a toy air force, basically.
I mean, I jokingly say, I mean, at this rate, I just get like a couple old schooners down in Devon, and just put some TNT on it, and there you go. You got like at least 30% of the navy right there.
I think they're going to have to refloat HMS Victory, mate, because we'll have no warships left. I can see them going to the Hendon Royal Air Force Museum and reactivating the Hurricanes and Spitfires, because there's no more fucking RAF planes left, you know.
I mean, the Golden Hind down on the embankment.
Yeah,
sails.
Exactly.
Put some modern artillery pieces on it. There you go. You got a support ship.
It's just, mate. You know, we're talking about this as a laugh, but it's true. Like, honestly, the British Armed Forces are a fucking joke at the moment.
And I'm going to be absolutely straight with you. You know, I went. There was a military fair show, and here in Britain, you have like one down in Yeovilton, not far from me, and a lot of Conservative MPs like to go visit down there. And I know from, I mean, frankly,
Fleet it used to be a Fleet Air Arm base.
It used to be, yeah. It used to be, and they produced like Merlins and things like that. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I mean, this is Labour and Conservative, but I mean, I expect this from Labour, and the Conservatives have been worse. I mean, both of them, and the British state, and but all of them have overseen the absolute collapse of our
Yes,
armed services. And
yes,
the reason they did it is they had this, this ridiculous conception of reality where we can just become not we could become we have a global army, a global army made up of the people from NATO, the European Union, and that we don't have to invest in our own, procurement
yes. Bullshit,
or
mate.
military power. And in as it has shown, with France and Germany and other countries, Germany has been forced to you know, invest in their military, same as France. We have, and the thing is, we have the added problem is we have a lot of overseas territories in far-flung parts of the world,
We
like
do,
the
yes.
Falklands, like South Georgia, like
14 of them, actually, yes.
yeah, all corners of the globe. So we need to have we can probably do with a small army, but we need to have a good big navy. We need to
And
have a navy
a reasonable air force.
and a
And
reasonable air.
it wouldn't be a bad idea to have some sort of missile defense, really, I think, when you look at the world these days.
No, no, particularly on the places like the Falklands, like
Well,
Cyprus, like
even around Britain as well, to be
well, around
honest. But
Britain as
yeah,
around Britain as well. And but this is the thing, we don't have serious people governing us. It's
no.
sad.
Well, we've got North number 10. I mean, great, 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 great. And the other thing I noticed the other day is Burnham, who I am totally convinced is a CUNT, and I always was, of course, and Zelensky, who is absolutely a CUNT. They went and visited all these Royal Naval people who they got done up in their best dress, full dress uniforms, and they couldn't even be asked to put tie on. Fuck them, frankly. Fuck them. Honestly. If someone makes me spend 2 hours getting ready for their visit, they can't be asked to put a tie on, I would say fuck them, frankly.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I know Mitch. I respect Putin. I will give Putin this. When he inherited Russia, Russia was a disgusting and deplorable state.
Yeah, it was a shithole.
It was awful, and it's quite
It
unimaginable
was
how bad it
it
was.
was being robbed blind by people like Konstantin Kissin's father, the guy
Yeah,
from
yeah,
trigonometry, who was actually, he made his money stealing off the Russian
yeah.
people, basically.
Yeltsin turned the country into an oligarch, corrupt scam artist state.
Yes.
And from the once mighty Soviet Union into that. When Putin came in, he saved Russia. If we're honest, he saved Russia from
He
that
did.
fate.
Yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
but, and this is a big but, while he's the hero of Russia, I also know that Putin, and I've said this before, and it's not me saying, he isn't. I mean, he isn't our guy. Obviously, he's not our guy.
No, he's a Russian guy. He's not a
He's a
British
Russian.
guy. He's a
He's a
Russian
Russian.
guy.
He's a Russian
Yes,
guy,
absolutely.
and he's if you look at, I mean, Duginism as well.
But you know what we have, AI, don't you? Like, Putin is a Russian guy. So if I was a Russian, I'd support Putin. I would, because I'd be a Russian. But I'm a British guy. So who do I support? Well, I can't support Andy Burnham, because Andy Burnham is a Pakistani and Nigerian guy. He's not a British guy. And anyone who thinks he is a fucking idiot. There is no British guy.
It was
in
odd that
2026.
his announcement for health and social care today, he went to a Jewish care home.
Oh,
I don't know.
goody. Oh, goody.
That I mean, I don't know why. Anyway, that bit beside the point. Yeah, you're right.
But he's not a British guy. The British leader is not a British guy. He's a Pakistani and Nigerian guy, basically.
But he doesn't like the concept of Britain. He said, like before, he wants devolution. He doesn't like.
Yeah, he wants
he
everything broken up and Britain back in the EU. I know this, mate. I know this.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, guys, I gotta go to sleep.
We'll head off. Yeah. Head off now.
Yeah.
So see you, Duke, and see you guys in chat. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
We'll continue this. In
See you.
2 weeks' time.
See you. Yeah, 2 weeks' time. Next week we'll do the history of Hope Not Hate, and join us on the weekend for our normal stream, where hopefully AI will be a guest. Go wild, guys.